I.P.C.P. Limited, a part of the Trasacco group of companies, brings you the revolutionary Trasacco Fast Floor, which uses a pre-stressed concrete rib and block system to produce floor and roofing slabs, which can be used in the construction of residential and commercial buildings, from single to multi-story structures. Pre-stressed concrete technology has been proven over 40 years throughout the world to be stronger, faster and cheaper than conventional systems. Now, Trasacco Fast Floor brings this leading technology to the Ghanaian construction market. Today, I.P.C.P. Limited invites you to discover and learn the best methods of using this revolutionary building system. But first, we shall take a closer look at the product and how it is made. Trasacco Fast Floor gains its superior strength through these high-tension cables stretched to 150 bar. Concrete is then poured continuously through a high-tech molding and vibrating machine to form the telltale T-shaped pre-stressed ribs which will support the Trasacco Fast Floor block system. The pre-stressed ribs are then left to cure and dry at a controlled rate to ensure there is no cracking or loss of strength. The pre-stressed ribs are cut to standard lengths when the concrete has cured to 30 kilonewtons per meter squared, and are then stored to cure for a further 21 days before they are ready to supply. The advanced design in concrete blocks completes the Trasacco Fast Floor system. Here we can see how they are mass-produced to a consistent quality as they are carefully monitored during the curing process. Once the ribs and blocks are ready, they are carefully loaded for delivery. Here, the pre-stretched ribs are stacked on strips of wood in order to protect them during transit. The Trasacco Fast Floor materials now arrive on site ready for construction. In this training video, we will show you the do's and the don'ts of how to install Trasacco Fast Floor. Oh, how? Ooh, why? Don't do this. It is not the correct way to offload your pre-stressed ribs. Otherwise, they will be damaged, weakening the final structure. Aha! Do it like this. Carefully offload the pre-stressed ribs, making sure strips of wood are placed between each layer. Hey! Don't do this! Stacking in a haphazard way will damage the blocks. Yes. Do it like this. Stacking neatly ensures blocks will not be damaged. It also makes it easier to count them. This construction is in its early stages. The foundations are laid and the formwork for the main beam is put in place. Make sure that the main beam is well supported using good quality wood. When making formwork of the main beam, there are some important measurements to take into account that make this different from the conventional formwork. Here is the U shape of the standard form, but one section on the inside of the form must be removed to allow for Trasacco Fast Floor pre-stressed rib components. To calculate the correct dimensions, first subtract the height of the block to be used from the total height of the main beam. Then, subtract another 5 centimeters, which is the height of the concrete that will be cast on top of the blocks. In this example, you can see we have removed 21 centimeters from the inside of the form, 16 centimeters for the block, plus 5 centimeters for the top casting. It is critical that these dimensions on the inside of the form are correct. However, the outside face of the form may be any height as long as it is no less than the total height of the main beam. Here are two more examples of blocks to suit different depths of slab. Notice how the dimensions for the inside face of the form differ due to the size of the block. However, it is not only the main beams that need support. The pre-stressed ribs too must be well supported. Hey! Don't do this. Without support, the pre-stressed ribs are liable to sag, causing the height of the soffit to drop, or they may even break when casting the final slab. Oh no! Don't do this. Putting the support for the pre-stressed ribs in after they have already been placed makes it very difficult to achieve the correct soffit height. That's right. Do it like this. Make sure the support system is put in first. This helps to set the soffit height correctly and supports the pre-stressed ribs. The soffit support beam is set to be level with the top of the formwork inside face. There must be one 2x4 soffit support beam placed on edge every 240 centimeters along the length of the pre-stressed ribs, and each soffit support beam must have props placed no more than 1 meter apart. The soffit support beam must be level, and the props must be vertical. No. Don't do this. It is too early to cast the main beam. The pre-stressed ribs are supposed to be set out on the formwork first. Casting the main beam halfway at this stage will cause many problems with the installation of the pre-stressed ribs. This will also create a cold joint when casting the rest of the slab, which should be avoided. You see? Don't do this. Cutting or breaking the reinforcement or chiseling the pre-stressed ribs will compromise the structural integrity of the building. Let's rewind that sequence and do it right this time. That's right. Do it like this. Set out the pre-stressed ribs and blocks before casting the main beam. Aha! This must be done. Set the pre-stressed ribs on the formwork a minimum of 5 centimeters into the main beam at both ends. Yes! Do it like this. This method makes it much easier to adjust the reinforcing, thus avoiding the cutting of the reinforcing or chiseling of the pre-stressed ribs. Correct! Do it like this. Place a block at each end of the pre-stressed ribs to set the space between them until the floor area is completed. Sometimes, the last pre-stressed rib and block to be installed may not fit exactly. In this case, use extra pre-stressed ribs side by side without any blocks to fill in the gap. When all the pre-stressed ribs have been set out, the process of installing the rest of the blocks can begin. No! Don't do this. Walking directly on wet blocks is dangerous as they may crack, causing injury to oneself or others below. Yes! Do it like this. Laying down planks spreads the load and protects the blocks from cracking, and is much safer. Hey! Don't do this. Pushing a loaded wheelbarrow directly over blocks is extremely dangerous. Okay, do it like this. Make sure planks are placed on the pre-stressed ribs and blocks before pushing heavy loads across the slab. This must be done. Installing 12mm reinforcing hogging bars like these at both ends of each pre-stressed rib is absolutely critical to the structural integrity of the slab. Where a pre-stressed rib enters the perimeter main beam, a hooked hogging bar must be installed to tie into the main beam reinforcement. When two pre-stressed ribs meet end to end on a central main beam, a straight hogging bar must be installed to tie both pre-stressed ribs into the main beam reinforcement. Any area of the floor slab made up of pre-stressed ribs longer than 4.2 meters must have a secret beam built into it. This will avoid any deflection of the pre-stressed ribs. The secret beam is made first by removing a line of blocks along the center of the floor across the span of the pre-stressed ribs. A board is placed under the hole left behind. 4 16mm iron reinforcement bars are then placed and tied into the main beam at both ends. Reinforcement is then tied across the 4 rods, ready for casting. This in effect creates a shallow beam hidden inside the slab. This must be done. Concrete should be mixed to reach a strength of at least 25 newtons per meter. A 1-2-4 mix with a water ratio of 0.4 and a maximum aggregate size of 20 mm must be used. The aggregate size is important, otherwise voids will be created between the pre-stressed ribs and the blocks. Don't do this. Casting concrete onto a dry surface like this means that water will be absorbed from the concrete mix by the dry concrete, weakening the casting greatly. Let's go back a bit. Ah, yes! Do it like this. Wet the dry surface of the concrete to ensure the concrete mix retains its consistency. That's right. Do it like this. So this is what it is all about. After the few preparations required, a single cast of concrete filling the main beams and covering the pre-stressed ribs and blocks is poured, vibrated, and spread to a maximum height of 5 centimeters. This is the stronger, faster, and cheaper way to use the Trasacco Fast Floor product. This must be done. The cast must be cured to avoid surface cracking. Here, we see sand being used to cover the concrete slab. This must be watered every morning and evening for 21 days. This must be done. Strike the formwork after a minimum of 21 days curing. And here it is. A completed perfect Trasacco Fast Floor. Built stronger, faster, and cheaper. One, Handling. Don't throw the pre-stressed ribs or blocks to the ground. Treat them with care and place wood strips between layers. 2. Formwork. Make sure the formwork has the correct dimensions and is well supported. Don't lay the pre-stressed ribs without the soffit support beam. Make sure that there are the correct number of soffit support beams and props at correct distances and height. 3. Setting out and laying. Never cast half the main beam before setting out the pre-stressed ribs and blocks. On no account should you chisel the ends of the pre-stressed ribs. Always set out the pre-stressed ribs and blocks prior to casting, making sure the pre-stressed ribs enter at least 5 centimeters into the main beam. Fill any gaps with extra pre-stressed ribs. Don't stand directly on wet blocks. Always lay down planks before placing heavy loads on blocks. 4. Hogging bars and secret beams. Always place hogging bars at both ends of each pre-stressed rib. Always create secret beams where pre-stressed rib spans exceed 4.2 meters in length. 5. Casting. Make sure the concrete mix is consistent, 1:4 with water ratio of 0.4 and aggregate no larger than 20 millimeters. Do not cast concrete onto dry blocks. Always wet blocks before casting. Always cast the main beams and slab in a single pour. Always cure the slab and water regularly. Always strike the formwork after a minimum of 21 days curing.
Yakayo, so one area,